This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at thebatmanuniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show. Scarecrows frightened of a clown that's laughing, boys. I am a Batman.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 246 of Dublin Dane. My name is Tim, and joining me, as always, Dublin Dane himself. Dane, how's it going?
It's going good. I have a question for you, Tim.
We always love it when we start an episode off with a question.
It's a little different, this one. I've just been thinking about it. So Prince, right?
Okay.
Is he the most famous Jehovah's Witness? He is, right?
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
at the time, Michael Jackson too.
Oh, Michael Jackson was a?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. His whole family was raised as. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, so Michael Jackson then is the most, or I don't know. You're really splitting hairs there. You know, who's better, Michael Jackson or Prince? You know?
Prince, I would say musically is definitely the more talented one.
Yeah, he could really play a good guitar there.
Oh yeah, there's that famous. Was it? It was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I believe it was, or was it the Grammy show? Where they're doing a tribute to George Harrison, and he just went crazy on "While My Guitar Gently Weeps."
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess we're sticking with Prince now.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Then the question has been answered.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack this on my weird mind.
You never know what Dane's going to be asking to kick off an episode. Well, I guess one thing we can continue while we starting off an episode, as always, is our Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, minute by minute commentary. And this one, we're going to be going from minute 34 to minute 35. So, as always, you want to grab your VHS copy, your DVD copy, your Betamax tape, your Laserdisc, your HD DVD, your Blockbuster membership card to go rent it, your Netflix physical media red envelope, your DVHS copy, and your UMD, can't forget that, and as always, your VHS to DVD converter copy that you just made from your PC. So pick any of those wonderful media formats, and we can begin the countdown. Dane, are you ready?
Yeah, I am.
All right, 3, 2, 1, play. I actually jumped ahead when I hit play, like an extra few seconds. So
oh, that's okay.
We got to cancel the whole commentary now. Go back from the very beginning.
Because it's important, Tim. Now, this is the most important thing in science fiction and fantasy, is to see somebody studying. That's the most important part, right?
Well, you just saw that look of shock on Gandalf's face when he pretty much realized that the One Ring was he left in the Shire with Frodo. That was my face. I realized I skipped ahead a few seconds. And of course, you had to be worried for a little bit about that dog.
Yeah.
That he thankfully made it back into the Hobbit hole, though, right there.
So that guy has been changed for the rest of his life, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's never leaving the house again.
I mean, hobbits don't like to leave their house in Shire in general. So I don't think that guy's going anywhere for a very, very long time. And that is our minute for this episode of the Fellowship of the Ring, minute by minute commentary. But of course, our Lord of the Rings conversation isn't going to stop there, because last week we just had the finale to The Rings of Power season 1. And before we start, let me make sure, Dane, you did see it, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I have seen House of the Dragon. I have seen Rings of Power. The only thing I haven't seen, Tim. Now, don't kill me for this, Tim.
I think I know which one you haven't seen.
Do not murder me. Do not fly over here and murder me, Tim. I haven't seen Andor yet.
Okay.
The last 2 episodes.
Oh, the last 2. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I could let it slide if you missed the first one, but I don't know. These 2, last 2, because just some of the 2 best episodes yet of the series.
Dang it.
After you saying it was your favorite show out of all of them, I'm a little disappointed, Dane.
Is there more with Mon Mothma?
Oh, yes. More great stuff was Mon Mothma.
Okay, I see. Well, I am slapping myself in the face right now.
As you should.
Yeah. But anyway, Rings of Power. Tim.
Yes. So yeah, sadly it's over. I already missed Friday nights of going to Middle Earth, but yeah, the finale overall, I thought it was great. I thought it wrapped up the season 1 storyline nicely and answered the questions that we had, because as I mentioned on our last episode, I would hate for the season to end, and yet they're still kind of teasing you, dangling the carrot of who these characters are, who is Sauron, who is the Stranger. We got those definitively answered, in my opinion. With the Stranger, you can make an case that maybe it hasn't been fully revealed yet, but we know he's one of 5 people. So I was glad about that. And for me, overall, doing it mostly in a satisfying way too. I was completely engaged, got some cool moments. I have one complaint that I'll get into, but overall, I was really happy with how this first season wrapped up and how it's setting up the stage for future seasons. And now that we know who these characters are, I think we can fully move into the story moving forward of forging the Rings of Power. So I was really happy with the finale.
Yeah, this finale really sort of brought things together for me, because I sort of agree, without being vulgar about it or loud about it or whatever, but like I sort of agree that it kind of seemed aimless for a little bit, especially with those 2 storylines, Halbrand and the Stranger. But it totally made up for it with this finale, with guy's Gandalf.
Yeah.
the Stranger's Gandalf. He had that line about losing his nose, right?
That's what sealed the deal for me. Right? It was like,
yeah. Gandalf said the same exact thing in Fellowship of the Ring, Constantine. So yeah, he is Gandalf, and Halbrand is Sauron. So yeah, I really like how it sort of came together at the end, and again, Halbrand was a character I really didn't like. I didn't really get with the whole I'm a secret king thing. Exactly. Oh no, I cannot be a king because yada yada yada. I don't want to be a king because X or Y, right? We've seen that before, and I didn't like it the first time, and I don't like it this time. And I really like that sort of reveal that he has with Galadriel in the garden, where he's like, or Galadriel is like, there hasn't been a king in the South for X amount of years, and the last king didn't have an heir, and he sort of like shifts her reality and stuff, and she's on the boat, she's with her brother in that field. It's so well done. So yeah, like this final episode really brought things together for me, and now I can look back and be like, oh, okay, so like again, like Andor, slow dripping storyline, right? And it really came full circle at the end. And you can kind of look back and I mean, I guess the only thing would be the Numenor storyline where it's kind of like unresolved. Okay, they just went back home. Where's Isildur? That sort of thing. But like the other major storylines, I guess you could say. Also the Cosmic Doom one storyline, just sort of like, oh, okay, so like we're gonna go in our hidey hole and you're gonna go create the Rings of Power. Sort of thing. I mean, I guess that's an ad, but you can kind of look back and be like, that was really good storytelling and a really good first story for the first season.
Yeah. So one surprising thing I was watching the finale was how there were certain storylines that weren't featured at all. Like I guess they felt were wrapped up in the penultimate episodes. Basically, as you mentioned with Durin and everything with the dwarves and Khazad Dûm, they were not in the finale at all. And then the story with Arandir and the Men of the South, all that stuff, I guess they felt was wrapped up, which I agree with, because one of my complaints about some of the earlier episodes, there was too many storylines going on at the same time, and sometimes it just slows the momentum down. So I was glad that this one just focused on two of them, the two biggest questions that we had revolving the Stranger and the Harfoots, and then Galadriel, Elrond, and now we know Sauron with Halbrand. So I think that's why the finale worked really well, is because it was just more focused on those storylines. And yeah, I'm with you on the reveal of Halbrand being Sauron, because I mean, I can't say it was a huge surprise, because out of all the speculations that I was seeing on social media and online about who Sauron was going to be, Halbrand was the biggest one of who it probably was, and that ended up being the case. But still, it was a great reveal and made the most sense, I think, because as you said, and as we said on previous episodes when we're talking about the Rings of Power, that whole storyline of the reluctant king, again, felt very repetitive, like Aragorn, but now it makes more sense, where that was never really a goal that Halbrand's lost Sauron was attaining to, just kind of using that to his advantage. And now when we knowing that that's not going to be a storyline moving forward, it works for me now, where it was just something kind of throw a little in there as a red herring to throw you off, but it worked well. And I just really love that whole sequence with his conversation with Galadriel, and just how he's trying to, try to get her on her side. Sauron is the master of seduction and trying to get people to do his will, and he was trying that with Galadriel, and how he was, doing everything he could, going back to her past with using her brother, and just trying to do everything he could to have her join him, but and she refused. And that moment, probably my favorite shot of the entire series so far, is where the camera pans where they're on that raft, and it pans down, or I shouldn't say pans down, but it flips over to the shot of the ocean, and you see the reflections of Sauron and his armor, his classic looking armor, and Galadriel. She looked like she was wearing kind of like a more royal gown with looked like maybe some armor, hints of armor on there too, but it's just such a great looking shot. I just loved kind of what that shot is implying, of what if the two of them were to rule together, because we know there's that moment in Fellowship of the Ring where Frodo offers Galadriel the Ring of Power, and she says how she would use it, how she would rule Middle of Earth just as a queen, and how she passed that test. And this is kind of not necessarily a foreshadowing, but what could have been, if she did take it and she was ruling with Sauron. So just like a lot of cool implications in that one image that just makes you think what could be if she actually did succumb to Sauron's offer and she joins up with him. But just visually too, it's just a striking image. I absolutely loved it, and that's now my Twitter header image. I like it so much I made it that. So yeah, all that was great. And going back to the reveal of the Stranger as being definitely an Istari and 99% Gandalf, but they tried to throw you off with those three mystics searching for Sauron, and they actually tell him, like, you are Sauron. But part of me thought, I would have been disappointed if that was the case, but since it was so early on in the episode, it was like in the first 5 minutes, like the opening prologue of it, where they make that announcement, you just kind of knew, that's not going to be the case, because we've been waiting so long to find out who Sauron is. They're not going to reveal it in the first few minutes of the season finale. They're going to save it to later on, have it be a big moment, which they did. So I didn't really believe them when they said the Stranger was Sauron. But it was a cool moment when the Stranger starts revealing or remembering who he is and the power that he has when Nori gives him one of those mystic staffs and he takes hold of it and really unleashes his power. And he even sees like almost the mystics how the ring wraiths look when Frodo wears the one ring, like kind of like that ghostly image where they're in the other world. So it just makes me wonder who exactly they are too, as far as are they? I believe that world is termed like the unknown world, or there's a specific name, and I'm just blanking on it right now, where Sauron was trying to do all those experiments as Galadriel saw in episode 1 in that tower. All the things he was trying to do to harness the power of the unseen world. That's what it is. And that's how they appear to be living in the unseen world once we got that image of like their ghostly outlines out there. So cool stuff there. And seeing the stranger accept who he is. And they makes it pretty clear that the name Istari refers to wise one or wizard. So yeah, I know there's still speculation that maybe he could be a blue wizard or Saruman, and because the blue wizards were the only ones to appear in the Second Age, which is this taking place on. So, but I just think they are changing the lore a little bit and having this be Gandalf, because as you mentioned, that line about whenever in doubt, following your nose, that's like, it made it pretty clear to me that that's who he's shaping up to be. So yeah, all that was great. My one complaint that I had about it was what should have been one of the biggest moments in the story and in the season is the forging of the rings of power, and we got the forging of the 3 elven rings. And this might be because, like I said, I've been eating up so much Lord of the Rings history and lore, watching videos from Nerd of the Rings and reading up on stuff, just really getting into big moments in the history. And one of them that I really took to was how Sauron manipulated and transformed into his fair form to get in with the elven smiths to forge the rings of power with Celebrimbor. I mean, you can kind of make the case that still happens here with him being Halbrand, but it just seemed to happen too fast, where they didn't forge the 9 rings of men and the 7 for the dwarves. And I'm hoping that it was something that I'm hoping this isn't the case where they actually did forge them and we just didn't see it happen on screen. I don't think we did, because that's be a pretty big thing moving forward, I think. Even though Sauron's not there with Celebrimbor to forge him, might know how to do it, and he can do it on his own and do it and give it to the 9 men and then the 7 dwarves. But I just really felt it went too fast, where it took years. I know they couldn't do it. I think it took like a few centuries to forge all those rings. So I knew they couldn't spend that much time doing it in this finale. But I just wanted to have Sauron be a bigger part in forging the rings of power than what was shown in this episode. But again, we know certain liberties have to be made and things are going to go in a little different direction. But I just hope that we definitely do see him forge the 9 rings of men and the 7 for dwarves before he forges the 1 ring in Mount Doom, which looks to be where he's heading off to, because that was such a great ending shot of him making his way to Mordor and to Mount Doom, and just knowing what's gonna take place moving forward with forging the rings. So I thought it was just a great way to end the season. But yeah, that's my one complaint regarding the forging of the rings, is how quick it was and how Sauron wasn't part of it longer. But other than that, yeah, just a really great finale that wrapped up things in season 1 and just makes you more and more excited for what's to come in season 2.
They weren't forged at the same exact time, right? Like the 7 for men or whatever.
Yeah, the 7 for men and the dwarves were kind of, like I said, it took a few hundred years. And then once those were made, because Sauron outmade all those rings, he actually leaves for a bit with the rings to distribute them. But then once he left, the elves, like Celebrimbor, made the 3 ones for the elves without Sauron's help. That's why he didn't have control over them like he did the men and dwarves rings. So he really had no power over those 3 elven rings with the 1 ring, because he had no part in making those 3 ones for the elves. They just kind of took what they learned from him and made it themselves. Which kind of is what happens here. Yeah, but just done opposite. While they were last in the source material, they're now the first ones here in the series that were forged.
I see. Is that something that happened in the Silmarillion?
See, it might be, but here's the other thing too. I'm just like, as I said, I'm in such a Middle Earth mood. I'm gonna be getting a bunch of books I haven't read before, like the Unfinished Tales I'm going to get. There's going to be The Children of Huron, which I heard is a really good one. I want to get the book of Baron and Luthien, which I didn't know there was a full-blown book on their story. I just thought it was kind of some like short tales, like passages of them in the Silmarillion and other stories. But I just found out recently, no, there's a full-blown book that came about their stories. But I think a lot of this stuff is going to be in Unfinished Tales, which I'm going to look forward to diving into. And I also ordered, finally, I'm getting new editions of just the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit. It's just really nice box set of the novels, hardcover, with illustrations inside that look really nice. And I ordered that from Amazon earlier this week, and I should be getting it next week. And I can't wait to get that. Finally going to have some nice Lord of the Ring novels to have on display instead of my old paperback ones that are really worn down now. Are just not that nice looking because they came out when Fellowship of the Ring was the only movie out, and so the covers are just screenshots taken from Fellowship. So even on the Two Towers and Return of the King books, they're just images from the Fellowship of the Ring movie, which I feel don't represent the books as they should.
I'm surprised you specifically don't have a nice copy of the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit.
Yeah, that's been something that's been bugging me for a while, but I finally decided to do something about it and get a nice copy.
Must have been expensive.
Yeah, it was for the whole set. It was like $100.
Wow. Jeez.
I was like, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, well, at least they look nice.
Right? Exactly. They're going to be more for display than anything, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not going to actually read them, are you?
I'm going to flip through them and look at the illustrations in there. But other than that, I was like, I don't think I'm going to read all of them like that. Plus, I think we talked about this on the last episode, but how the audiobooks with Andy Serkis are out there now, and I really want to listen to those.
You really need to listen to those. They're really good. Like I just finished the Two Towers one, and yeah, it's really good. There's a lot of people on there on like again Audible or the Audible page that are complaining about like some of his pronunciations, I guess.
Really?
But I don't know. I didn't have any problem with it. I mean, it's Andy Serkis then.
Yeah, Tolkien purists, they're going to find a problem with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
but
I guess...
I
go ahead.
I had a theory about, you know how like people were complaining that there's a black elf or a black hobbit or whatever being racist. I had a theory where I was thinking, well, of course they have a problem with it because like that's what Tolkien writes about. You know, these conflict between races. Except this is like real, right? Real racism, right? The dwarves don't like the elves don't like the dwarves. Nobody seems to like the men, and the hobbits are just kind of there, right? So like, I don't know, it kind of explains it, right? Because that's what Tolkien writes about.
Yeah, that's why it's so stupid where these people are complaining about that, where like they're just missing the whole point of what Tolkien's trying to say in the story.
Exactly.
These different races coming together, working together, some that never liked each other, but for the great of the world.
Okay. Yeah. I see.
It's their loss.
Well, overall, I really liked the Rings of Power. There's a couple complaints, like I mentioned, with the sort of aimlessness at the beginning, because you have a giant, you have a giant red herring in the story with Sauron and Halbrand, and so you have to kind of write around that. But like, yeah, I really enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, me too. So, I thought it got off to a kind of a slow start. I enjoyed it, but didn't love it in the first few episodes. But it really found its footing in the middle episodes and just kind of took off from there, leading up to a great finale. So if I were to score it, I would give it a solid 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I would give it a 4 out of 5 too. Yeah. Also, quick question, Tim. So these mystics, right?
Mm.
They're like otherworldly beings or they're transcendent beings, right? How did they get it wrong, Sauron?
Yeah.
Like how does that happen? It's like you can see. I mean, you're this enlightened being, but you pick the wrong guy. I mean, I guess that goes to show like how strong Sauron is. I guess.
Yeah, just that's the thing. We don't know too much about them. Like, where did they come from? What are they
Yeah.
actually about? Were they actually servants of Sauron before? Because if they were, then that really makes them look bad. Or if they're just like
Right.
a cult following where they believe in his ideals and purposes, but they didn't necessarily serve under him or anything like that, and that's how they got it wrong. So, not
Yeah.
sure. I wonder if we'll find out more about them later in season 2.
Is that something they made for the show, or is that like something that
I
they
think
took
so.
from?
As far
Oh,
as I know, I think that's their new creations for the show.
I see. I see. You know who would know is Nerd of the Rings.
Oh yeah, without question.
I didn't see any videos on them, so
Same
yeah,
here. So that makes me think that they're probably new
they're probably a
characters
new
created.
thing, right?
So yeah, Rings of Power season 1, big thumbs up. Can't wait for season 2, which just started filming, I believe, last week. But I think we still might be a couple of years off, given how big of production it is. So maybe not till 2024. I think we might be seeing season 2,
Great.
which is going to be a
Gonna,
long wait. Which
it's gonna be the new. It's gonna be the new Black Adam, right?
right.
That movie's been in production for like almost 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And was the 20 years worth it? You'll find out in a few minutes in this episode.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna
But
say yes. I'm gonna say yes because The Rock is in it, and The
mm,
Rock is sort of like the charismatic guy that can
yeah, we're
really,
like
as long as you let him be himself, right? You know?
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you almost can't go wrong with having a good time with The Rock involved.
Sure. Sure. Even if the movie isn't that good, you know, you can still enjoy The Rock in it.
Exactly. Is that the
Yeah.
case? Stay tuned.
Sure.
But before that, I mean, unfortunately, I think another show we're gonna have to be waiting a long time for season 2 is gonna be House of the Dragon, because I have been hearing things that
Great.
it's looking like a 2024 release date for season 2 as well, which is kind of a bummer, and I'm sure we'll be feeling that even more when we see the finale tomorrow, because that's recording this podcast on the Saturday afternoon. We just saw the penultimate episode last week, and the finale is already here, which is, again, hard to believe that it's been 10 weeks since the series started. But here we are, and boy, talk about a series that doesn't skip a beat and just feels like it's better and better with each episode. It's House of the Dragon. These last 2 episodes were great. In particular, I felt episode 8 just might have been my favorite of the season. And boy, is it just setting up for not only what should be a great finale, but just moving forward in the story of the Dance of Dragons. I just cannot wait to see it all unfold. Even though I know certain things that happened over the course of the story, I think they're going to be switching things up as well to still have it be a bit of a surprise for those who know what happens, who either read Fire and Blood or just kind of know the story and history of it by watching the history and lore videos like I have. But I cannot wait to see it all go down. These last 2 episodes, like I said, have been fantastic. I really liked episode 8, where it pretty much dealt with it was the death of Viserys and just his final days, and it was just great to kind of see what could have been if the families got along, the Greens and the Black, that dinner table scene. Obviously, there was a lot of tension there, but there was that moment after Viserys gave that emotional speech about just wanting the families to let whatever issues they had in the past be done with it and move forward. As he said, their family, and just how important that was to him. And you kind of see Alicent and Rhaenyra kind of bury the past and try to become friends again and move forward. By the time they were done with that dinner, even though their children weren't seeing it that way, which is going to be the main cause of all of the Dance of Dragon War starting. But I just like how you kind of got a glimpse of how peaceful it could have been if the families resolved their issues. and you didn't have to worry about the whole line of succession and who should sit on the throne. So it was just kind of a good like calm before the storm, and just it's going to make it more heartbreaking, I think, when you actually see the families at war. Starting, I think, with this finale and then moving in future seasons too. And just what a great performance for blanking on the actor's name. I apologize, who played Viserys, though. He just was fantastic in this episode, being in his last days, feeling very sickly. But that moment where they're trying to decide the line of success, or trying to decide the line, not the line of succession, but who's going to rule the Driftmark. And once he comes in and enters the throne room, and he just makes his walk up there, just knowing this is probably going to be the last time he'll be sitting on the Iron Throne, and he wants to make sure he goes there and sits on it as the king. And he just can't do it as he gets close to the steps, and he just falls. And Daemon is the one who helps him up and puts the crown back on his head after knowing everything they went through in the earlier episodes. Where Daemon thought he was going to be the next one in line to take the throne as his brother, and being cast out, and to see here kind of just help his brother just one last time, put the crown on him, I just think was a really impactful, powerful moment for them. And it was just great performances all around. That episode just hit all the right beats as far as establishing where these characters are at during that moment, and just making, like I said before, it's going to make it that much more tragic when we see the outcome of this war that is about to happen between them. That episode was just brilliantly done.
Well, it's not only that; it's also the fact that Otto is sort of coming into his own, especially with the ninth episode.
Oh yeah,
the Green Council, right? It's like, wow, he's a fast mover, and I didn't expect this from. I mean, you can kind of see it coming. I kind of didn't expect him to move that fast, But he has a really good incentive to want his grandson on the throne, and also to get even with Rhaenyra for convincing her father to get rid of him. So
yeah,
I didn't expect him to move that fast. But like you said, especially the eighth episode is definitely the best one we've seen so far, particularly the ending with the misinterpretation of the prophecy of Aegon. That just made me so sad. It was just so sad to see that Alicent is misinterpreting this thing that was supposed to be for Rhaenyra, and Viserys thought he was talking to Rhaenyra. I mean that's really the sort of fatal wound in all of their in this whole storyline, where things change, and we definitely saw it in the ninth episode.
It's like, Sarah, if only you just kept your mouth shut for a little bit longer that one moment, it could have avoided this whole thing. Because it's still at that moment, like I said, Rhaenyra and Alicent were ready to move on and maybe try to mend things to become friends again. And looks like she was going to kind of accept that Rhaenyra is the heir that Viserys wanted to. Obviously, he named her the heir early on, and she was going to see that through because that's what he wanted. And I did like, too, in episode 9 where they just didn't make Alicent just a flat-out villain wanting to get her son on the throne no matter what the cost, and just take out whoever's going to be in her way, because she was really reluctant and was appalled when her father was ready just to send knights out there to Dragonstone and kill Rhaenyra and her family, just so there wouldn't be no one to threaten Aegon's rule. But yet she didn't want any part of that. And still, even though obviously things aren't the way they were between Rhaenyra and Alicent, she still she doesn't want her to die, still kind of views her as a friend during this moment. Like I said, they left on good terms in episode 8, but obviously things are going to go down differently later on. But I did like how in that episode 9, they just didn't make her out like a flat out villain or tyrant, just wanted to see her son on the throne, eliminate all competition. That's more what her father wants, as we saw what he wanted to do. And that ending in episode 9, geez, talk about the coolest king coronation ceremony ever. Visually. I mean, they were hinting at that when she knew they were going to the dragon pit, but I wasn't sure if they're going to do that. But man, just having Rhaenys come out on her dragon to interrupt that ceremony, visually it looked great. And I know it kind of sparked a lot of debate online. It's like, why didn't she just say the magic words Dracarys and just kill all of them right then and there? The upcoming war could have been avoided. But I think they kind of made that point in the conversation she had with Alicent before to, obviously there's still family there and kind of like one mother to another mother protecting their children. She just couldn't go through with it. Maybe we'll get a more reason in episode 10, or maybe she won't. I don't think she'll reveal that to Rhaenyra and Daemon at that moment, but maybe we'll get some type of insight later on why she didn't decide to kill them all right then and there. But it was still a great triumphant moment for her character, knowing that before what she went through being looked as to become the queen of Westeros for Viserys, and now someone else is threatening or taking away the rule of another would-be queen of Westeros, with Aegon being on the throne instead of Rhaenyra. So she definitely made her presence known in that moment. Of like, it's not going to be easy, or just a simple put an Aegon on the throne without any repercussions. So obviously, as we're going to get to in the 10th episode, but what a great way to end that moment and that episode. Was just visually just looked awesome.
Yeah, I saw the same thing online where it's like, how come she just didn't burn them alive? But then, like, she's a mother and she was denied the right to sit on the throne, and there's some sort of connection there, no matter how wrong it may be. But yeah, there's definitely a connection, and yeah, like I really liked how you said they kind of didn't make Alicent the sort of bad guy. She wanted to see her son on the throne to fulfill the misinterpreted prophecy, right?
Yeah, that's her main reason for doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, but she wants to do it her way. She doesn't want to do her father's way, which is hang what he assumes to be traitors, that don't want to bend the knee, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I don't know if maybe because Song of Ice and Fire better, but this is going to change, right? It's going to change really quickly, where she's going to essentially turn into her father, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, with that guy, I can't in that weird scene, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name.
I think it's Loras.
Yeah. Loras? Yeah, okay. Loras. Yeah, that's going to change pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, maybe as soon as the finale episode, actually. I think we might. Yeah, there's going to be some. Because the preview that we got for the finale, knowing what happens, looks like there's going to be a big moment that happens in the finale that's going to really be a turning point to how the families deal with each other, I will say. That's all I'll say about it right now.
I think one of the brothers or sister of Aegon is going to die. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to be spoiled, Tim.
Sure, yeah, I won't say that. But in the trailer, you did see that shot of like the dragon flying in the rain.
Yeah,
that's such a great visual, and I'm pretty sure I know what that moment is, and it's going to make for a big moment in the finale, which should look pretty awesome.
How do you know so much about Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire, not about Lord of the Rings? Then,
like I said, I think the history they had for Game of Thrones is a little more easier to digest as far as time periods and like important characters, where the Middle Earth history is so big and massive that there's thousands upon thousands of years that there is to dive into and learn about, which I'm slowly want to get into more of. Like I said, when I get those books, I'll probably start to have a better understanding and knowledge of that history. But I just think the Song of Ice and Fire one is a little easier to digest than the Middle Earth history, to consume, I should say.
I see. It's more accessible.
Exactly. Yeah.
I honestly can't believe that Viserys died. It looked to me he was on death's door in the first couple of episodes, and then he died in episode 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to believe because, I mean, I don't know how he didn't die in the first couple of episodes with the or especially with the time shift. I was honestly surprised to still see him alive.
Yeah, he's a survivor. He was someone who didn't kick over easily. And Paddy Considine, that's the actor's name who played
Paddy
Viserys.
Considine.
Yeah, he did such a great job in that episode. Fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait for this finale, or maybe I can't wait for this finale.
Same here, yeah.
Yeah.
It should be one that should be both satisfying in the story and action scale, I think, and just getting you more excited for what's to come later on. And like I said, just make the wait harder for season 2 if it is going to be, in fact, not until 2024.
Yeah. No, and not until 2024. You know what I like about the show, Tim? That they have dragons in it, and like there's not that complaint. Well, how did they get from there to there so fast?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, they just flew on dragons, continuously. They didn't stop off at, there was no drift mark stop off for a few hours to get the connecting flight to King's Landing, right?
The next boat ride, yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I'm pretty confident House of the Dragon will stick the landing with its finale for the first season, and if so, it would just make it just an amazing season, which we'll definitely talk about on our next episode once we see it. But I cannot wait.
Yeah, Tim, you are now known as Nerd of the Thrones.
Nerd of the Thrones.
Or Nerd of Thrones. Yeah.
I'll take that esteemed title, Nerd of Thrones. Okay.
I do have one small little criticism, Tim.
What's that?
It's Missaria, the White Worm.
Okay.
That accent is so bad. It makes me cringe every single time. I mean, I've seen that actress in another show before called Devs on Hulu, and she's a good actress. And I don't know why they made her do the French accent. Is that like she's from French version of not Middle Earth,
Westeros.
Westeros,
Maybe.
I don't know. It's a really bad French accent, but
it could be a little distracting. I know what you mean.
And
it's a choice, I guess, that the show wanted to make for that character.
Yeah.
So
we need some more Jason Lannister.
I
don't know why. I don't know how he fits into the story, but just because his name is Jason.
Yeah. Just one of the more common names you're going to get in a Game of Thrones show.
Yeah. I mean, it's right up there with Rhaegar or Viserys or Rhaenyra. And then you have a Jason.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he had a Ned, right? He had a Ned.
Yeah, that was more of a nickname, though, because his name was Eddard.
Yeah, true. Yeah. John.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the basic one, yes.
Yeah, but that was sort of the name they gave him because he was a bastard, right? Or was assumed to be a bastard, so.
Well, wait, we finally got a Tim in Star Wars, though. So in Endor.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Tim was a great betrayer.
Exactly.
Of all of Andor.
I know. I was so disappointed. Like, we finally get a Star Wars character named Tim, and it's this guy.
Yeah. I saw that tweet and gave me a good chuckle. You're nerd of the Star Wars, Tim. That's your YouTube name channel.
How about Nerd of the Force?
Nerd of the Force, right?
That has a nice
Nerd of the Force. You're the biggest Star Wars fan I know, and finally, there's a character named Tim, and he is a great betrayer of the people. And even though he tried, Tim, he tried to, make it right. It's just he ended up dead.
Yeah, and it's needless way too. Like, what did you think was going to happen if you just start running and charging towards those soldiers? Right. They just shot him, of course. Like, good job, Tim.
Why couldn't that character be better and smarter?
Or just give a trooper named Tim. I would have been happy with that. A clone trooper named Tim or a death trooper named Tim. That would have made me.
Yeah, and then he gets immediately dispatched.
Hopefully,
he's like the first guy through the door and gets shot. Still no Dane though. I don't think so, right?
No, but we know there's one in Game of Thrones. We know there's one in the MCU now, played by a Game of Thrones actor.
Yeah, my favorite actor.
There's that one random thug character in a Batman comic that he got taken out named Dane. I can't remember the issue. I remember talking about it. But...
Yeah, I remember that too. My favorite thug of Batman comics.
But yeah, nothing in Star Wars just yet.
Nothing even close, right? Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, nothing even close, right?
Yeah, nothing's coming to mind, but I do read the comics, so I'll be sure to let you know, Dane, if there is some random character that just is named Dane. I'll be sure to send you a screenshot of that name being spoken.
Please send me a screenshot so that I can bask in the glory of the greatest character in Star Wars.
Yeah, we'll see who's better, that potential future character named Dane or Tim from Andor.
Yeah, he can't be a betrayer. He has to be a pure hero. Or at least if he is like Star Wars version of Tim, he was kind of right. No.
I guess from a certain point of view.
Yeah, from a certain point of view, he was correct. But yeah, I forget where we were. We got distracted with the great betrayer Tim.
Yeah, a positive note to end our Game of Thrones discussion or House of Dragon discussion on betrayer from another TV show. Because there will be betrayals, I'm sure, in House of the Dragon coming out. I think that's a guarantee.
Oh yeah. It's death, taxes, and betraying in the Song of Ice and Fire. Those
things you can count on. Yeah. So the last few weeks of awesome TV shows is kind of winding down. There's only 2 left for this week, Andor, House of the Dragon, but next week there'll only be 1, which is Andor. But it was awesome getting all these shows on a weekly basis. Consuming all this nerdy stuff has been awesome. But we also got a nerdy comic book movie to come out this week.
Tim, before you get started on that, I was just thinking about Hugo Weaving, right?
Okay.
We were just talking about Rings of Power and Lord of the Rings and stuff. Is he the only one besides Carl Urban to have like multiple franchises? He has the Matrix, he has Lord of the Rings, and he has the MCU.
Yeah.
Right. Carl Urban has Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, and The Boys.
And he was even in Thor Ragnarok, so he has MCU ties as well.
MCU ties, right. So Carl Urban has 4.
Oh, don't forget Dredd, too.
Dredd, yeah, but there hasn't really been...
But that's not a franchise, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's a
movie.
Yeah. So Carl Urban has 4, Hugo Weaving has 3. Can you think of another person that has 3 or 4 major franchises?
Well, Cate Blanchett did have Indiana Jones. She was in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull as the main villain.
Okay.
It's 2.
Lord of the Rings.
She was in Thor Ragnarok as well, so she's
Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Sure.
Elijah Wood, he did a voice in the animated show Star Wars Resistance, so he's a part of Star Wars. So he has too.
Lord of the Rings, Sin City.
He was in that?
Yeah. He played like a serial killer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Sean Bean, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones.
Silent Hill.
I say he was part of something else. Oh, James Bond. He was in James Bond. Yeah. Then Dominic Monaghan. He was in Wolverine, X-Men Origins.
Is he the one in Lost?
Yeah, the Lost too.
Right?
So,
yeah.
Of course, Ian McKellen as Magneto. So he has two big ones.
Yeah. McKellen.
Liv Tyler's in the MCU too. She was in the Incredible Hulk.
Ian McKellen and Christopher Lee, right?
Oh yeah, Christopher Lee is the other big one. That's right. But yeah, I think Carl Urban wins though. He has the most.
Yeah, he has Star Trek under his belt. He's got the MCU. He's got the Boys. So yeah.
Yeah, I will definitely put him the winner.
Yeah,
okay. and he's great in everything that he's in. I think he's such an underrated actor,
especially in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
he's so funny in that. Like I didn't expect him to be that funny. But,
I know.
Yeah. But anyway,
yeah.
Well, The Rock, right?
Yeah,
the Rock has franchises, right? Like
he has Jumanji, The Mummy.
Was there more than one?
Yeah, they made two of them. Both of them were funny too. Okay. I actually really like both of them.
Okay, so Jumanji. What was the other one?
The Mummy. Now Black Adam.
Black Adam.
Oh, that's right. Fast and the Furious. He's in
Fast and the Furious.
Those movies.
Let's say they go with Vin Diesel then, right? Vin Diesel has Fast and the Furious and the MCU. That's
true. Yeah.
But anyway, The Rock, Black Adam. Did you like it too? Let me make a prediction.
Okay. Yes.
Let me make a prediction.
Let's see.
You liked it, but you didn't like most of it.
Kind of close. I'd say you're pretty close. Yeah, to me, it's a middle ground movie. I didn't absolutely love it. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed most of it. Going into it, I was just excited to see, obviously Black Adam, the main character, see his story told on screen, and just seeing the Justice Society on screen as well, at least certain members of it. Number one that I was most excited for being Dr. Fate, and those aspects did not disappoint. I mean, the story, it was fine for what it was. I did like some of the things they were trying to tell as far as, being a hero versus an anti-hero type thing, where the city of the country of Conduct, where they view Black Adam as their ancient hero, their savior. And they make a point because they're being controlled and ruled by criminal organizations like Intergang. Intergang's pretty much the main threat and villain in a villain organization in this movie. And once the Justice Society go to Conduct to stop Black Adam or to take him prisoner, one of the main characters, her name is Adriana. Her family, her son, and her brother are like three of the main supporting cast members, which I'll just say right off the bat wasn't the strongest aspect of the movie. She was fine, and she eventually, with her character, she becomes pretty much Black Adam's queen, Isis, and she played a major role in the new, or not in the new 52, but the series 52. But so I remember that's like my first main Black Adam story I read once 52 was going on. So that's kind of a lot of where my history comes from. But like her son and her brother, they were kind of like the weakest aspect. They weren't great performances, especially her son. I mean, I hate to get all like child actors, but he wasn't great. And the character who played her brother was there for the comic relief, but the comedy didn't really hit for me anyway. So that was kind of the weaker aspects of the movie. But as far as her character, going back to the point I was making regarding heroes, she was called out the Justice Society. I mean, she tells them we've been here under control by the criminal organization Intergang, and you guys don't do anything about it. But yet once our champion, our hero from our history comes to liberate us, because Black Adam has already taken down several members of Intergang before the Justice Society shows up. She's all, he comes here to help save us, and that's when you guys come to help us out. Like, are you really being heroes? And because Black Adam doesn't see himself as a hero, but he's actually helping the city of Conduct. And of course, he's doing it in a brutal way, and that's why the Justice Society has to stop him. So those elements I do like, the story elements I did like, and the themes they're trying to play with. But by the time it got to the end, it didn't really stick the landing. I really enjoyed the first 2 acts of the movie, but the third act, it kind of fell apart. It actually left a lot to be desired, in my opinion. And I'll throw it out now, some spoiler warnings, as I'll be talking about some of my favorite and least favorite things about the movie. But the stuff I was going there to see, I mean, I wasn't expecting, the next Dark Knight or Endgame, Infinity War, my top tier comic book movies. I was just going in for some fun action with Black Adam and the Justice Society. And I got that in the first 2 acts of the movie. Seeing the Justice Society and their fight with Black Adam was awesome, especially Dr. Fate. Seeing his costume was amazing. Pierce Brosnan was great in the role. His voice when he had the helmet on was really cool. His powers on display. It was just great. Then you had Hawkman, played by Aldous Hodge, as I'm not gonna lie, I just have the IMDb page up because I'm not familiar with a lot of actors in the movie besides Dwayne Johnson and Pierce Brosnan. But I want to give the actors their due here. And you had Noah Centineo as Atom Smasher and Quintessa Swindle as Cyclone. There were your 4 major members of the Justice Society. And all of them had their moments, cool action beats. Atom Smasher, his costume looked great. I loved his costume from the comics, and they did a great job translating it on screen. He was kind of he was the young, inexperienced new member of the Justice Society. And he was fine. I liked him. But my one thing I can't help but shake, I felt they tried to make him too much like the Spider-Man from Captain America Civil War, where he's joining a team for the first time, he's making mistakes, and just even some of the way he talked and the way he would kind of talk too much and kind of annoy Hawkman, kind of like Spider-Man annoyed a little Tony Stark a little bit in that. I just got major vibes from that, where they're trying to play on that aspect of that inexperience of the character. It just felt a little too familiar for how Spider-Man was portrayed in Civil War, but yet his main counterpart in Marvel would be Ant-Man, because Atom Smasher grows super tall and big, just as Ant-Man did in Civil War. So, but I found it more a comparison to be for Spider-Man, ironically. But Atom Smasher was like visually, it was cool just to see him try to take down Black Adam and subdue him just by being so gigantic. Just seeing all their powers on display to take on Black Adam was made for an awesome action sequence. And Black Adam too, the way The Rock portrayed him, I thought was really, like you said, The Rock just has that charisma that he brings to all his roles, and it was a more serious role for The Rock than the stuff I've seen him, where he does more comedic stuff. But he still has his comedic timing when he tries to make sarcastic remarks so serious. But so his portrayal for Black Adam I thought was really good, and the way they handled his powers, there's some really cool action sequences in the beginning where he's taking down Intergame. I'm not the biggest fan of slow motion action beasts. I think they've been done to death, but there is a cool one here in Black Adam where he takes down all these Intergang soldiers that made for a really cool sequence. A little similar to the Quicksilver one in X-Men Days of Future Past, but done differently enough and a lot more brutal too, and which made for a cool sequence. So between the first 2 acts, I was eating all the DC Comics nerd stuff quite a bit. I was just having a blast seeing all that stuff happen on screen. But when it got to the third act, I felt it went into some familiar superhero movie tropes that I kind of hope we moved on from. It just felt a little too safe, because there's this object, this crown, that harkens back to the king that ruled over Black Adam and his people in Conduct thousands of years before, and where he was a slave. And they changed his origin a little bit here, where they made it in the movie, it made it played out where he was a boy. He stood up to the king and he was going to be executed for it. But before he was executed, he got taken away by the Wizard Council. Obviously that we know from Shazam, and they gave him the power of Shazam like they did in the comics, because they found him worthy to do it. And so they kind of play it vague, where he destroys the king, and it's like, oh, he got buried, but it gets revealed, no, the wizards felt he used his powers, he abused his powers, and he was too dangerous to be kept around to use them, and so they locked him away, kept him prisoner. That's all, true to the comics, because he did abuse his power. But what the reveal is that it was actually Black Adam's son who was the one they bestowed the powers of Shazam on. And because he was taking down the king and his men, the king went after his family, and they killed his mother, and they mortally wounded his father. And then when Black Adam's son goes to see him with the powers of Shazam, he transfers his powers to his father to heal him and to obviously save his life. And once he did that, his son lost his power, became a little boy again, and he got shot with some arrows, and he died. And so obviously that really upset Black Adam, or Teth Adam, I should say. And that's where he just goes on a rampage and starts killing everyone. He takes down the king and just he's the one who really abuses the power. And that's where the wizards imprison him. So the big change was that Teth Adam wasn't the one chosen by the wizards. They actually chose his son. So that was a different change, and one I'm okay with. I think it worked well for the stories and played on the motivation. That's why Black Adam doesn't see himself as a hero. He never claimed to be, and never claimed to be the savior of Conduct. So I kind of like that what fueled his motivation more so than just being someone who's mad for being imprisoned by the wizards and just out there for revenge. You kind of saw a little growth with his character, but the thing that I wish I felt or stuck a little more closely to the Conduct or comics, where, I mean, even in the marketing for the movie, they were playing it up as, this isn't he's not a hero, he's the anti-hero. This is an anti-hero movie. It's not a superhero movie, so to say. But over the course of the third act, it kind of like that typical thing where he goes on that journey where he does become a hero. Like he saves the people, which is obviously he's going to do, and he would do that for his country of Conduct. But where I felt it changed a little bit from the comics and from the character, where at the end where they eliminate the main threat, he goes to sit on the throne and make it like he's going to rule, just like Black Adam does in the comics and kind of what he thrives to do. But instead he destroys the throne to make it like the kingdom of Conduct does not need a ruler. The people are free to live their lives free of rulers and just live for themselves, which, I mean, that's the message they want to try to get across, but it just sounds very cliche and of your typical superhero movie where, he goes on this character arc where he actually doesn't see himself as a hero, more of an anti-hero. He kills people, but yet he comes on this journey and he starts seeing himself more as a hero. I kind of felt they went more in that direction, where I thought they could have still made it, he's not a full-blown bad guy, but yet he's still going to do, and I should say, it's kind of hard to explain because I didn't think they did a great job of establishing one way or the other. They made it like, he's still the anti-hero. He's going to kill bad people, but yet you can still see him as this someone who's changing his ways and becoming more. He will eventually become a hero, so to speak. But I think it should have been where, he's only going to do what's best for the people of Conduct. He does become the ruler in the comics because he feels he's the one who's best to do that. I kind of wish they stuck more to that of his comic book origins, because that's what makes Black Adam so fascinating. Like he's a brutal character, but yet when he rules over his people, he's someone who they believe in and is actually a good ruler for them in protecting them. Where he kind of, in this one, it made it look like he's going to be their protector still, but yet he's not their ruler. He's still going to let them be over themselves. I don't know. It's just a mixed bag for me with how they left his character at the end there. And just the whole final act, you just got your typical monster villain, this human character who becomes a monster villain by this power of this ancient crown. I thought they weren't going to go in that direction, because there was a moment where you thought this villain was going to have the power, and yet he gets killed. It's like, okay, they're not going to go down that superhero trope. He's done away with. We don't have to worry about him. But yet it was his plan all along. He has to die first to become back as this big monster to rule over the city. Then he raises these zombies up. Then you get your typical cliche, all the citizens of the cities, they got to rise up and for themselves, and this felt very cheesy when they start fighting these zombie monsters out in the streets, while Black Adam and the Justice Society are fighting this big monster, where the action in that sequence wasn't the best. It was probably the weakest action sequence out of all of them in the movie. So just everything about that final act from a story standpoint, where it left Black Adam as a character, and just the action not being too great. That's where the movie I felt didn't deliver for me. And there was a cool moment with Dr. Fate where he does sacrifice himself in order to bring back Black Adam, because the Justice Society, they convinced Black Adam to surrender himself and to become a prisoner and to never speak the word Shazam again. He goes back to his mortal form. They give him to Amanda Waller. They're going to bury him in the ocean, but Dr. Fate realizes he's the only one who can stop this new monster, and he communicates with him telepathically to break out of his prison, say the name Shazam, and be the one to defeat this threat. And Dr. Fate ends up dying in the process. But like I said, that moment with Dr. Fate was great. So that was the best part of this finale or final sequence. But then it just became your typical just generic action sequence that wasn't the best. So yeah, overall, it was a fun time. I'm glad I saw it in the theater because there were some great action sequences that had to be seen on the big screen, especially the stuff with the JSA versus Black Adam. So that's in the movie. Just another thing that I kind of rolled my eyes at. That was another typical superhero movie ending, where it's like, oh, like what do we call you now? It's because they don't say it throughout the course of the movie. That The Rock gives his classic rock stare, and it just fades to black, and the title Black Adam shows up. It's like, how many times have we seen that before with these types of movies? So again, not a huge deal, but just something that's like, they're just hitting certain beats here that like they're checking boxes off of certain things they want to do in this superhero movie. But of course, the big thing, what was the worst kept secret in the world going into the movie, and I think what most people were excited for, was the post-credit scene where Black Adam is still in conduct, looking over kind of in the ancient throne room there. So like I said, he's still there, not ruling, but he's still staying there, kind of being like a ruler, but he's not. Again, that's why it's a mixed bag with where they left his character. But Amanda Waller gives him one last chance, not one last chance, but gives him a warning saying, if you step out of conduct and come, more our way, we'll have beings waiting for you or ready to see you as a threat and stop you. And Black Adam says, there's no one on this planet who's stronger than me. And of course, Amanda Waller says, I can call in people not from this planet to stop you. And then that's where we get the silhouette of someone flying down with a cape. There's some smoke, but then he walks through the smoke. You see the S, and you actually see the face this time. Yes, Henry Cavill is back as Superman, and we actually hear him talk. He just goes, Black Adam, I think you and I have to have a talk. And we hear the John Williams Superman theme, not the Hans Zimmer Man of Steel theme, which was surprising, but it still sounded great. It had that impact you were hoping for. It was just a great moment because over the course of the movie, you see everyone having troubles trying to stop Black Adam, but the only one who could probably be his best is Superman. And knowing that he's out there and that he is going to have a presence in this movie version of Black Adam was great. And to see it actually be on screen together for the first time was pretty awesome to see, and setting up what will eventually, hopefully, be the full return of Henry Cavill, not only to fight Black Adam, but just to have another Superman movie again. So that was great. One thing too, kind of going off from the movie as far as, because there was this report that came down from the Hollywood Report about the potential future plans for DC. There, as I mentioned, there's plans for a Man of Steel sequel with Henry Cavill. I don't want to call it probably will be a versus movie with Black Adam eventually down the line, but it's like, as cool as it was and exciting to see Henry Cavill back, with everything that's gone on, I'm still kind of cautiously optimistic about it, because how many times have we been down this road of potential upcoming DC movies that we could get and they never come to fruition. And now we used to say, oh, let's wait till production starts and the cameras are rolling, then I'll start getting excited. But with the cancellation of Batgirl, that's not even the case where you can be fully confident that even when it's filming, you'll get to see it. So there's potential for some cool stuff coming down the line, especially with Henry Cavill being back as Superman. Because, I mean, let's face it, if regardless of how you feel about the movie Black Adam, one thing we can be grateful for and having The Rock in the role as Black Adam is getting Henry Cavill back. That all came from him, because I think he even said the old regime when this movie started production were dead set on not having Henry Cavill back. And I was worried because there's been rumors about Superman appearing in this for a while, and I thought we were going to get another Shazam moment where, hey, there's headless Superman. Let's just pan up to see the suit, but we can't show his face because we don't want to use Henry Cavill again. That stuff is just so annoying. It's just like, I'd rather them not do it than do that. So the fact that The Rock was able to bring Henry Cavill back, not only for this movie, but looks like just back into the DC movie fold for a while now, as hopefully he gets another Superman movie, is great. So if nothing else, we got to be thankful for Black Adam for bringing back Henry Cavill as Superman, because it was a great moment just seeing him back again as Superman after, it's been a while since Justice League. I mean, if you don't, obviously we had the Zack Snyder's Justice League where we got to see him again, but maybe for a more general audience who just remember his last appearance being in Justice League, which was 5 years ago, and not many people saw that anyway. It got a great reaction in my theater, and I think from other people I see online, that is the highlight of the movie that got the biggest cheers. So fans want him back. The Rock realized that, and it's just cool that he championed the return of Henry Cavill so much, knowing that that's what the fans wanted, to keep him as Superman. Even if it's not going to be, the quote DCEU that began with Man of Steel, just you got a great actor still in the role. Use them still, even if the timelines don't match up. And I'm glad that's what a lot of different movies are doing now. Even if you're not in the same timeline or continuity or whatever, if there's a great actor in the role, you bring him back to play that part, because it just makes total sense. Fans will get it. Audiences will get it eventually that, it's not the same universe, but just a different take on the same character played by the same actor. It's not that complicated. So even if, like I said, they decide to reset the universe, different timeline, to still have Henry Cavill in the role as Superman is going to be great. So yeah, Black Adam, like I said, kind of a middle road comic book movie for me. A lot of stuff I liked about it, a lot of stuff I didn't like. But in the end, it was a fun time at the movies seeing these great DC characters on screen for some cool action. So overall, I'm going to go ahead and give it 3 out of 5.
Henry Cavill, also a pulled off the trifecta, right? So, wait, maybe not. DCU movies, Mission Impossible, The Witcher.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, 3.
Let's get him in a Star Wars movie. That would be awesome.
Who would he play? Stormtrooper, like Tom Hardy did. Yeah.
See, I could see him being a Jedi. I could see him actually being an Imperial officer. I think he'd make a great Imperial officer. So I think there's several of those he can do in Star Wars.
Well, he is British, so.
So see, yeah, there you go, Imperial officer.
There you go. Half your job is done already.
Right. So yeah, I mean, that's it for my review of Black Adam and the other main TV shows we've been watching. So I don't know, Dana, unless you got anything else to bring up or want to talk about, I think that's it for this episode.
Let me think.
Think hard. It's going to be a full 2 weeks before you can bring some up again.
The Gotham Knights game isn't getting.
Oh yeah. That should probably be. Yeah, the fact that that's not part of our topic discussions for this episode should probably tell you I didn't get it. You probably didn't get it, Dane, because the reviews have not been good. Even like I said, the previews leading up to it haven't gotten me excited. And that's when I saw the reviews come out, like that's kind of unfortunately what I was expecting for this game.
Yeah, I'm so glad I didn't get it. Yeah, it's not getting good reviews. Apparently, the combat isn't very good, and the story is predictable. And it's we have brand new consoles, Tim. We have the PS5, we have the new Xbox, but yet these developers can't seem to get their frame rates to 60.
I'm not a game developer, but like you said, these new powerful systems, and they still having trouble with that. That kind of puzzles me, to be honest. Like, why can't they?
Doesn't make sense, right? Say, well, why can't they? Because it's locked at 30. the Gotham Knights game, and that was my one criticism from that first piece of footage we got from it. Can't remember what it was from. Like,
I think it's from the DC
E3?
Fandom. I think it was one that made it first.
Fandom.
From 2020,
right.
I believe.
Yeah, it was during the pandemic, and that was my one major complaint, that it wasn't at 60 FPS, and that the combat didn't look very good, and the glitchiness of it all, and I don't know, it really surprises me that we can't get 60 FPS for these games, and we got brand new systems. It doesn't make any sense. Like, do we have to have a gaming PC? Is that what it is?
That's probably your best bet, but still, like we're expecting that from these powerful consoles. Even like when we have to switch, do you want to run it for a higher performance or the higher frame rate? Like, you can't have both on these powerful systems. That still bugs me too.
Yeah, why can't we have both? Like, have the game developers already outgrown the PS5 and the new Xbox?
I know, right? It's like, I certainly hope not, because it's still too soon for a new console.
If that's the case, then why did they release the PS5 and the new Xbox?
I know.
I don't know, Tim.
It's disappointing. That's for sure.
Yeah, but the Gotham Knights game is getting very good reviews.
I mean, I'll play it eventually when it goes on sale. But it has to be anyway.
It's gonna have to be a pretty steep sale for me.
Yeah, like once it hits
20% off.
Yeah, like because right now it's $70 just for the standard version of it. So yeah, so if it's like 20% off, it's not going to be that much. You're not going to be saying.
It's gonna have to be like 70% off to get it, or part of the Xbox Game Pass thing.
Yeah, that'd be nice if it was on Game Pass day one. But... Yeah, that was disappointing to hear.
So glad I didn't take the dive on that one.
Yeah, especially at that price point.
Yeah, Tim, I learned my lesson from Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's it for me, Tim.
All right, then with that, I guess I'll throw it back to you, Dane, for the outro.
All right, go to the BatmanUniverse.net, Facebook.com/BatmanUniverse. Twitter handle is at BatmanUniverse. Tim's Twitter handle is at TimG311. My Twitter handle is at DudeSinceBanana. Rate and reviews on iTunes. iTunes doesn't exist anymore. Apple Podcasts. Spotify.
I don't even know if we're on Spotify.
Yeah. And you can email the show at batfans@gmail.com. So with that, we'll be seeing you at the end of every single episode.
We love each and every one of you with all of our satisfied fantasy hearts from great finales of Rings of Power and probably House of the Dragon coming up.
See you guys next time.
See ya, everybody.